So we're right in the middle of the month of May, and I've just collected some young nettles. These are stinging nettles, so you need a pair of gloves, otherwise they'll sting you. Now, there has always been a tradition in Ireland that the old people used to say everyone should eat 4 feeds of nettles during the month of May, and that would keep away the pains and the rheumatics and all of that. And it was really just folklore, but now of course this has been scientifically proven, and they've got lots of potassium and vitamin C and other really good niacin and all sorts of good things in them. So with the nettles you could give them a wash. I've got some already chopped there, and I'm going to make a nettle soup, a lovely stinging nettle soup. I also picked a few little wild garlic flowers because they're in season as well at the moment, and I'll use those for a garnish. With the nettles, just pick the tops. If you're doing them with your bare hands, just pick them up quite firmly and then just take off the tops like that, and then you would wash those and just chop them up. So just be careful because they can sting you quite a bit. So just chop them up like that, and then I'm going to add them to these ones here. The basis of a lot of our soups, our pureed soups particularly, are potatoes and onions. Onions for sweetness, potatoes to give a nice bit of body to the soup, and then whichever other vegetable you want, root vegetable, in this case green vegetable. Now, so we start off with some potatoes and onions. Get a peeler like this. One of these swivel top peelers are really brilliant to have. They're really easy to use. You can use them towards you like that, or you can actually go the other direction if you feel more comfortable with that. Now, these are old potatoes, or what we call main crop potatoes, and these are really best for the soup. They're coming to the end of the season now. We'll soon have new ones, but these are perfect. So just take the potato. You can cut it in half like that if you want, then cut it again, cut it into sort of dice, kind of about 1/3 inch dice. I mean, whatever is easy for you. This is a lovely little kind of slightly serrated knife. Here we go again, like that, coarsely chop them. Good. Now, and they will give a nice little bit of body to the soup. And then an onion. Now, you can either use an ordinary onion like this, or at this time of the year, the young green onions are just coming into season, and you could use, of course, the bulb and every bit of the leaves as well if you wanted to. So they're really delicious. But while I have this onion in front of me, why don't I just show you how easy it is to chop an onion. Cut it in half and then put it root side away from you like that, and then with whatever little knife you feel comfortable with, just cut down onto the board like that, keeping your nails well tucked in and using your knuckles as a guide. And now just turn it around, and if you like, you can slice again like that if you want them quite small, and then tuck your nails in and just slice across like that, and then you have a lovely dice. Look how simple that is. And then you come to the end, you can flip it over like this, and then that little rooty bit you can put into a stock pot. Now, so this is the basis of the soup, and then just melt a little butter. Butter is lovely, or if you wanted to do dairy free, of course you could use extra virgin olive oil, or you can use a combination. So we'll add the butter in and let that melt around. When the butter foams, then I'll add in these vegetables, toss them around, add some salt and pepper, and that's the basis of the soup. So we'll sweat that first. In other words, cook it on gentle heat until the onions and the potatoes are soft but not coloured. Now, what you also want to do actually is to put on some stock, about 1.75 pints of stock. So I've got some in there, and I'm going to put another 3/4 pint. I'm pouring this stock has actually been made ahead, and it's also been frozen. We freeze it in these recycled plastic containers, and we always have it in the freezer. This is chicken stock, but of course if you wanted to have it vegetarian, you could use the vegetarian stock as well. The other thing, I'm going to add a little creamy milk. Look, add that in as well, and that will give a delicious flavour. But I'm going to heat this up, get that good and hot, and then I'll pour it onto the sweated vegetables, because the faster the soup is made, the fresher it'll taste. When the butter is foaming like that there, just add in the potatoes and the onions, the base of the soup. So toss that round like that in the butter, season it well with salt and with freshly ground pepper. Get the seasoning in early so it's nicely absorbed into the soup and you don't have to use too much at the end to bring up the seasoning. Now, the other thing that's good to do is you can make a little paper lid. I have a little square of greaseproof paper here, and fold it in half and then in quarters and then in eighths and then into 16ths like that. And then what you can do is you can make a little paper lid, as we call it. Now, the French word for this is cartouche, so it's a much posher word in French. Pop that down on top, and then we'll put the lid on the saucepan. Then it'll cook on a nice gentle heat there. And here we have already sweated potatoes, onions, and you can see that I used the green part of the lovely young green spring onion in this. Now this is the base, so on top of that I'm going to add in the hot stock, milk stock and milk mixed together. I'm going to add that in. This will come back to the boil. We'll cook it then for a couple more minutes, just until the onions and the potatoes are completely soft. The reason I didn't add in the nettles now, because if I add the nettles at this stage, they'll be overcooked. They only take a couple of minutes to cook. As soon as the potatoes and onions are fully cooked, I'll add the nettles in and then they won't overcook. I make any green soup in this way. So if I was making watercress soup, or if I was making spinach soup, or radish leaf soup, or beetroot leaf soup, I would add the greens in at the end. Just cook them for a couple of minutes, just until they're nice and tender. Now this looks about ready to put in the nettles. So how you know is just take a little bit of the potato and press it against the side of the saucepan, and it should be completely cooked. Then add in your chopped nettles, washed and chopped. There we go, got the last few little bits. Put this back on a good high heat, and then we give it another just 2 or 3 minutes, and then it should be ready. And have a little taste. There we go. That's what it looks like now. I have 2 options. I can either put some into the liquidizer, just whiz it up, or you could put it into food processor either, whichever you like. Just make sure the lid is on, lift out the center. Now, make sure it's well clipped on, then lift out the lid. I've got some nettle soup that I've already pureed here. Let's spoon. Oh, isn't that a beautiful colour as well? And I love my soup plate. I might sprinkle just a couple of little wild garlic flowers on top of it. And I'm just thinking that I might do a tinsy-wincy little drizzle of olive oil as well. Now, how nice is that? It actually looks quite chefy, in fact. Or otherwise, you can serve a lovely chunky version like this. You see, look. There we go. So you have the broth and the onion, the spring onion and the nettles as well. There are lots of people who actually don't really enjoy a pureed soup but love a chunky soup. So here we have a few more of the little wild garlic flowers. So why don't we sprinkle a few of those on too? I love a little extra virgin olive oil. It improves everything, doesn't it? So there we are. So there are 2 versions of nettle soup. One pureed, like this here, lovely colour, and the other one still lovely and chunky with all the bits in it. And both are garnished with some little wild garlic flowers. And this is bursting with nutrients, so good for you. Lots of vitamin C, and also of course it's a great boost to your immune system, and the old people always told us that it kept away the rheumatics as well. So remember, 4 feeds of nettles during the month of May, that's what you need. You can also of course just melt them in a little olive oil and add them to some mashed potato and do like a nettle champ. They make a delicious pesto as well, and I can tell you nettle beer is also well worth making.